This evening's guest says he's the product of a mixed marriage. His mother was a woman and his father was a man. Well, after hearing that, it would be in your best interest to reach for your seatbelts and buckle up. But let me warn you, it won't be all laughter. There'll be brutal honesty, an expose that he hopes will help others. No journey is ever smooth. Jolts and accidents are par for the course. And an accident on Hope Road proved to be the wake-up call he needed. When he sat up and asked, "Who are you? What are you? Where are you going?" It's time to hear the Tony Hendriks story. Yes, his Paleface. Good evening. This is Profile. I am Faye Ellington. Well, comedians are known for self-deprecating humor, but I have to get this one in. Paleface, how did that start?
Actually, it was the publisher of a book that I was doing. I'd been writing a lot of articles for the Star and for the Gleaner, and we were trying to come up with a name, a title for the book, and he said, "Jamaican Paleface, talk with forked tongue." As in Paleface talk with forked tongue. But I said, well, I don't know about the forked tongue part, but I love the Jamaican Paleface because it's a natural, it's an oxymoron. It's not what people think when they think of Jamaica. They don't think of palefaces. So I thought that will work for me. And it's one of those things in Jamaica, everybody have a nickname. Everybody have a pet name. You can't play a game of football without somebody finding a name. So when I first came to Jamaica, back to Jamaica rather, when I first came back to Jamaica, I'm playing football, and I would go up and head the ball. Nobody else was heading the ball. They all wanted to do skill on the floor. So they called me English. I didn't love that at all. So Paleface worked for me.
It worked for you. Let's start at the very beginning. You were born in Jamaica.
I was.
And let's talk about the St. Joseph's Hospital experience into your family, mother, father, sister.
Absolutely. My mother was English. She came over to teach. She was at St. Andrews High School. She was a PE teacher. And you can always tell the people who loved her as a teacher because they were all tall and athletic and obviously were a good goal shooter or something like that. And then the ones who were kind of like maybe a little frumpy and unathletic, they didn't like her at all because she'd make them do jumping jacks and all that kind of stuff.
And your dad?
Dad comes from a Jamaican family. My great-grandfather owned Arthur Hendriks Furniture Company, downtown Kingston. My grandfather worked there as well. We used to, that part of the family lived in Ligony, Matilda's Corner. There was a big old mansion house where Sovereign Supermarket is now. And that's where they lived, and I know Dad grew up there. So Dad, very much from a Jamaican family, and his brother was actually general manager of what was JBC at the time. And
so your father was Henri?
Henri Hendriks,
right.
Yeah, absolutely. His mother was French. And there's a wonderful photograph of my grandfather, Arthur Richie Hendriks, getting married in France, where you can tell which one is the Jamaican. Let me put it that way.
How did your mom and dad meet?
Well, that's a really good question, you know. I think playing sport. There were some of the, my father's brother's family were attending St. Andrews, and I believe Dad went to one of the hockey games, and, you know, he saw this PE teacher shouting and jumping up and wearing a gym slip or whatever. I don't know.
So they met in Jamaica. It wasn't in England.
No. They absolutely met here. Yes, very much so.
So you then would have gone to St. Andrew Prep School as well, because your mom was at the high school.
That wasn't necessarily a good part of the plan. I don't think that I was there, because sometimes, you know, I would try and I misbehaved a fair amount, especially when I was at school. And sometimes I would cry off, and she didn't want any part of that at all. But I did. I went to St. Andrews Prep, and then at one point they figured I was. I told people, I tell people occasionally, I said I went to Knox, and people go, "Oh, you're a bad boy."
But so, you did go there for a year.
I did. I was sent away.
Why did they choose? Oh, really? You're so uncontrollable?
It was a couple of reasons. I think that my mother and father were splitting up, and they thought it would just be easier to get me out of the picture and put me. My mother tricked me. She was English, but she learned how to be a general. She really did. We went to a summer camp at Knox, and after the summer camp, she said, "Did you like it there?" I went, "You know, it was really a lot of fun." She said, "Would you want to go back to school there?" I'm like, "Yeah, it was great." Of course, school was completely different to summer camp, but they managed to. It was too late by then.
1 year at Knox, and then it was off to England.
Yeah, because my mom and dad separated, and the actual divorce came later. And Mom, I think she was in a situation where she had been, I think the family were happy for her to stay here, my dad's family, but I think she felt that maybe it was good to go away at least for a little while and take stock of everything. And so she took all the stock.
And your sister?
Me, my sister were the two siblings in that particular part of the family. I actually have another brother from my father's. It's Jamaica, so you know we have other siblings from the same father. No, they're a different mother, but you know how it goes.
All right. I did promise you laughter, you know, but we're going to get down to some serious business too. How was England? How did you establish yourself as a Jamaican? Because you came back there as a Jamaican, even though your mother
yes,
come from England. Bristol it was?
Bristol in England. We went by boat.
Banana boat?
We went by banana boat.
You're part of the Windrush Company?
No. This was Jamaica Planters. This is producers, I think. This was later than that, so I'm not that old.
I'm just teasing.
We went over. That's fine. We went over. It was a shock. It was a real culture shock.
Before you get there, how was the ride on the boat?
Well, we'd been a couple of times on banana boats over to visit England. Actually, I loved it. It was fantastic. And the boats were small, you know. I mean, you look at big cruise ships now, nothing like that at all. I mean, they're more like the boats that you see down by Cement Company. Pretty small boats to be going across the Atlantic. 12 passengers. It was a lot of fun. I mean, they were...
How long did that trip take?
10 days, something like that. And it was terrific. And I still love going on cruise ships and on ships.
So you got to Bristol and it was culture shock. In what way were you shocked?
I think it was, well, from a real culture shock as being a Jamaican, I think that was one of the times that I learned in my life, all the black people want to hug me up, all the white people want to beat me up. You know, it was a real kind of understanding that people said, well, who are you? You know, and where you, because I went to school, none of the people knew me. I hadn't been at prep school, primary school, kindergarten with any of them. So they're like, who? So the teacher says, all right, this is Tony Hendriks, and he's from Jamaica, which is a tropical area. And he said, anybody got any questions? And they say, well, we didn't know there were any white people there. You know, I said, how do you think the black people got there? And so people say, we hear it's very violent. I say, it's very violent here too, and I thump somebody. No, seriously, it was. They asked me who I was. I told them about my family's mix and background and everything. And one guy shouted out, so you're a WOG, which is Western Orientated Gentleman. That's what it stands for. And it basically means you're not black, but you're not white.
They didn't call you half-caste?
I got called that as well, but I embraced it. WOG became my nickname. So when I went to England, my nickname became WOG or Woggy, and that to me, my mother hated it. Other people in the family hated it, but I was like, no, I am going to make sure that they know. But you see, is it any different to me coming back to Jamaica and my nickname is Paleface?
Same thing.
It's a case of just saying, you know, I'm all of those. I am out of one, many people.
What were those years in school like? What did you get up to? How was your academic accomplishments?
Sport and theatre, the arts. Those are the things that I wanted. I really didn't enjoy. And I guess if there's a regret, I regret that I wasn't engaged more in school to do the learning, which we all know helps us greatly later in life. But at the time, sport, the outdoors, I adored all of that. And acting in plays. That is one of the places that I really suddenly started to discover who I was and what it was that I really wanted to do.
Well, could you just jump back to Jamaica? When you were a little boy, maybe 2, 3, 4, you were acting. Yeah. You want to tell that story in about 30 seconds? All
right. The first production, I played Happy in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which was at the Little, it was like a family production.
The Little Theatre, which was then the Doris Jubilee rehearsal room.
Correct. Yeah? And I did that, and I just stood up, walked out on stage and played Happy. That was my character, right? I didn't have any lines. And then I went home, because I was very young then, but I remember probably maybe 4 or 5 years old, putting on a play that I'd rehearsed. I'd created the set. I'd seen Sound of Music, and I thought, I'm going to do something like that. And I had these puppets, and I did this thing, and I put on a show.
At home?
At home, for Mom, for Dad, for my sister. That's all. And at the end, my dad roared with laughter. They all did, and started applauding, and I burst into tears, tears of joy. I just thought, that's good. I like that effect. And I think that also had definitely told me where I was going to go.
So we're jumping back and forth, but could we take a break? Tony Hendriks, and please remember it's Hendriks. There's no C in his name.
Well.
Paleface, actor, writer, comedian. And I don't know why I decided to bring him here because it's an absolute disaster. We'll be right back.